Hello, I'm Michel Gagné, and you are listening to the Real-Time Visual Effects Podcast, where wizards reside.
You have a gift. You have a passion for creation. There's something inside you that wants to express itself, and that something has led you to explore the world of visual effects, a place where magic happens, and the only limitation is your imagination. All the greatest artists in the world started somewhere, learning and growing into the people they are today. You being here is the first step to building your legacy as an artist. Learn from the best and brightest in the real-time visual effects community. Sharpen your skills and be your best self. Today's episode features an interview with Yoeri Luos Vleer. Ever since I got involved in visual effects, Luos has been there from day one, teaching me and showing me all the amazing stuff that happens with particle systems. He is a huge advocate in the Unreal Engine community and has done an amazing project with a particle a day for 365 days. I'm super excited to be talking to Luos today and sharing his incredible journey with you today. With that said, let's dive in.
Here is your host, Travis McCallum.
Hey everybody, I have Yoeri Luos Vleer, an amazing visual effects artist doing a lot of freelance work right now, and he's worked on amazing titles like Reticle Rogers and a big advocate of the Unreal community. Luos, how are you doing today, man?
Hey Travis, yeah, I'm doing fine. I spent the whole day in my front yard digging and trying to not hurt my wrist in the process, and now the whole front yard is empty, and now I can put in some new plants and that kind of thing. So it was quite an intense but relaxing day.
That's awesome, man. Hey, are y'all in quarantine over there too, or is things kind of like settled down for y'all?
It has been settled down a little bit, and generally it was okay. It's not like the chaos you've seen in some other countries. Over here it was mostly fine. A lot of people ignoring all the new quarantine rules and that kind of thing, but now we can be together in groups of 10 and maybe a little bit bigger soon. So it's been, I wouldn't say smoothly, but it hasn't been as bad as in some countries at least. So that's good.
All right. Well, as long as you're staying safe and healthy, it's the most important thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So I really want to kind of open the floor here, Luos, by asking you, how did you get started in visual effects? What's that origin story look like?
Origin story. Well, I always wanted to make video games. And as a little kid, I was always drawing them. And I ended up always drawing a lot of Mega Man projectiles and Metroid projectiles and anything like that. And that was always fun. But that kind of went away, and I started becoming an environment artist. And eventually, in the Little Big Planet 1 community, somebody was asking me to make some projectiles for a top-down zombie shooter kind of thing. And that was a lot of fun. So I just went with it. And in the Little Big Planet 2 beta, I started making more projectiles. And eventually I wanted to make my own full game in Little Big Planet 2. And I kept hitting limitations. So I went over to UDK, and it just went on and on from there until now.
What was this like back in the 2000s? And were you working in like a mod space for Little Big Planet? Is that kind of what that was about?
Little Big Planet was like, it's part play, part create, and part share. Share part, let's put it on site. But the creation part, Little Big Planet toolkit just for editing is so well adapted for people who are just getting started to people who are really, really advanced into the technical part. And that was just so much fun to play with. And yeah,
That's
it was
awesome,
just
man.
addictive. It was really addictive because even now with Unreal Engine, we're always hitting like these weird walls, and we have to weird limitations. And in Little Planet, it never felt like you had any limitations, and it's just like such a cool thing to be creative in, and so easily to iterate on things. And I still think that a lot of engines and developers could learn a thing or two from the way Media Molecule especially handled their creation kits.
Cool, man. Cool. So in the world of visual effects, we're definitely moving more toward this real-time aspect. And I know the definition is a little bit ambiguous. I was just curious, what is your personal definition of what makes up real-time visual effects?
Nowadays, you could say almost everything is visual effects, but to me personally, it's like special effects optimized to run in real time, of course. It can be in video, but in my case, for video games. And also just sparkles, pew pew pews, solar coasters, whirly swirlies, and all those kind of neat little things that just make everything pop.
Awesome. When you first started off in visual effects, what was some things that you wish that you had known getting started? Things that you use now in your day-to-day activities?
My education was mainly focused on games and animation, mainly in the flash aspect of it. And I wish I spent a lot more time with the animation part, the principles of animation, because it's still something that I'm struggling with a little bit. And everything has to be so readable. So if you are not really good in those principles, then you keep hitting walls that just very frustrating. So animation, in my case, that's something that I wish I spent more time on and knew that I would be using a lot.
Do you feel like all the principles of animation apply to visual effects, or are there a select few that are more prominent than others?
Might depend on every specific effect. I think learning them all gives you the broadest knowledge of what you can use and what you can't use. Obviously, the timing, stretch and squash, that kind of thing, it's all nice, but just the whole package is, the more you know about it, the better it gets, of course. So everything you learn, you can apply, and getting a better feel for motion is just makes your work so much better.
For sure. So, what are you most curious about right now? What's really got your interest in keeping you engaged in the world of visual effects?
Well, obviously, the easiest answer is Unreal Engine 5. I really wonder what that will bring us. And for me personally, trying to find the fun in creating again. So those two things are probably what I'm most interested in.
I know Epic launched their Unreal 5 PlayStation 5 demo. What was your takeaway from that? What did you really get out of it that was like dazzling for you?
Well, obviously that we no longer need to bake down models. We don't need to create LODs. We might not need normal maps for them, maybe not high maps. So there's a lot of free time for us to spend more on optimization, making things even prettier, more effects, and that kind of thing. So I'm wondering how much that our workflow will be affected by Unreal Engine 5, because for all we know, it might still be a separate rendering system that might not be as optimized as just static environments. So yeah, it's a bit of, I'm excited, and also like what is going to change, how our workflow is going to change. Will we have it easier, or do we end up having like more work to do in the end, because things might be so different, especially with Niagara as well. Oh my God. So much to learn, so little time.
I think that's the first time I've heard somebody say Niagara as Niagara.
Oh, it's probably because it might be just a weird translation. And I tend to say things very weird. I say PlayStation instead of PlayStation or whatever people say it. And I always have those weird Dutch word things. It's totally fine. But yeah, I keep saying Niagara. Niagara? How?
When you're looking at the work of your own effects, or maybe at the work of others, what are some of the things that you're looking for in their visual effects?
Readability, obviously, because everything needs to be clear, and that's becoming more clear to me as I'm getting a little bit better in special effects. But also the timing, and something that I just is a pet peeve of mine is optimization. If I see like somebody using a depth fade and it's just like cutting away from the floor of the depth fade without any noise to make it a little bit more wobbly and more realistic, I get out, pulled out of the game or whatever I'm looking at. I'm like, use a little bit more that and readability. I like it if something is just so clear and everything makes sense. And yes, this is an explosion and there's nothing distracting you from that explosion or the projectile or that special effect in the wall. The clearer it is and the more readable it is, the more fun I get from just looking at it over and over again.
You talk a lot about optimization. Can you just kind of describe to me, like, what does that mean? What is optimization?
What is optimization?
Like,
Well, obviously to make it run within the performance budget that you have, but I like to make sure that everything just, one, runs fine. Two, if you spam like 100 of them, that it still runs fine. And three, that especially because I'm a marketplace seller, that if somebody purchases your content, that they can put it in and everything works from the get-go. They don't need to do anything additional for optimization. All the LODs are in, the texture settings are all correct. So just that they instantly can play with it without ever having to go back and edit it and waste time that is very precious.
cool, man. I want to know, what is your workflow for creating an effect from start to finish look like? Can you kind of talk us through your mindset from creating, effects?
Well, I'm not somebody that can see images in my head. So I need to make something and look at it before I understand what I'm actually making. So I have this very, very big Unreal Engine 4 project that contains almost everything I ever made, purchased, gathered, and I use that basically like a toolkit, or what's it called when people have like a bash kit. And I use that to create an effect, and I take it from there. So I can easily iterate on it. I can ask my clients if I have any, like, is this the kind of effect that you want? And then I can iterate on that. So I can optimize, recreate whatever is needed. Basically a very short version of the workflow.
Could you run us through maybe an example of an effect that you've worked on in the past, maybe in a personal project, and kind of how you went to making that?
Poof. That's which effects shall I pick? There's so many, and not proud of that many.
Well, let's jump into this personal project that you did a while ago. It was creating a particle a day challenge for 365 days. Can you kind of
Yeah.
tell us about that? Like, how did you manage to keep up and stay consistent with like creating a brand new particle system? And some of those visual effects you make came out really cool. How did that go?
Sometimes it was just pure luck, really. But there, just like you, we've all seen a lot of effects made by a lot of different people or in games, and you were just like, how did they make this? And especially the first 20 or so effects were inspired by video games that I played at the time, especially Tales of series, that they have really good effects. And I saw this bow effect and I was like, how would they animate it? How would the texture look animated? And I was just like, well, that's kind of how I started. The first effect I made in UDK was just a rocket from Tournament. So I looked at all the separate shapes and just slowly started converting them either into meshes, textures, and then took it into UDK, tried to animate the materials, and often being frustrated that they didn't look exactly the same. And eventually I just gotten into the flow, like it doesn't need to be perfect as long as it's like good enough for that day, and then I can move on. So yeah, but actually really starting it, well, basically make every step really small. Is this a mesh? If yes, would this mesh look like? And then I just model something that might look like that mesh. And the same for the textures. What does this texture look like? Can I draw it myself? And if not, do I have any reference model that I can draw over? And slowly, I took it from there. Same with materials. Hey, this is an effect with a weird glowy edge. How do you make a glowy edge? Then I'd look either at a material compendium or effects that were already made by Epic or others. And oh, hey, that's the kind of effect that I want. And then just recreate it. And if I didn't know what a node meant, I went back to the material compendium and read about that node to see what it does, so I have a better understanding of it.
I hear that good artists take the work of other people and they use it as inspiration to build upon. So often when you're creating your effects, usually over time you build up this repository of different kind of like textures and materials that you can just reuse. And that's how
Yeah.
you're able to be very efficient and very quick when it comes to creating brand new effects, because you already have the base materials. It's just about mixing the ingredients to create the final product.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I have like about 80 material functions, and I have hundreds of textures and hundreds of normals and that kind of thing, just to optimize my workflow. And it's also fun because eventually you find a few textures that you always pick as first, because you know the result will probably be good with this texture, or this material function gives this kind of effect, and you always want to use it because it's part of your own character, your being, and you kind of want to express yourself through something. And in my case, it's actually just a simple material function that distorts the UVs, and I just love using it everywhere, even if it's like not even noticeable. It's just me. I like to distort all the UVs and make weird wobbly things.
So jumping back just real quickly to the Speed Create project you came up with,
Mhm.
what was the premise behind it? What made you want to do it in the first place?
It started out noticing there was actually a lack of tutorials and videos about it. That was part of it. Another part was basically getting out there and making people notice your work, and that might end up getting you hired. And it actually did. After 2 months of the whole particle a day thing, I got hired by 3D Realms, and it was part networking, part learning process, and part hopefully helping others being inspired into creating special effects. So play, create, share. Yeah.
33% of your time here, there, and there.
Yeah.
Thinking about the whole year, surely there were days where you didn't have the motivation to work and you were like, oh, I just want to stay in bed, or oh, I want to play games. What did you do to stay committed?
Well, that's a bit of a double-sided question because I had to stop after 3-4 months or so because I was just so occupied with work and real life and that kind of thing. So it's always on my mind, like I didn't finish it, But in the time that I actually worked on it, it could be really frustrating, especially if I accepted like a day off with my girlfriend and then I got back at like 8 p.m. at home and I was like, oh my God, I only have like 4 hours left to make an effect. So it needs to be small. Still need to record it. I need to cut the video and blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
So that was a lot of frustration, but in the end, it was also just a lot of fun because you learn so much in such a little time. It's also like I'm a freelancer. I don't work at big offices and I kind of miss that constantly being pushed to make content and finish content in time. So this was a good way to force myself to let go of the perfectionist in me and just make something and give myself only like 4 hours, then edit the video and put it online. So it was like a test of character, probably. I should do it again just to test my character again. But yeah.
Earlier this year, they have the Global Game Jam, and I had an opportunity to sit in there for 2 days with a team of other video game developers. And the pressure really does make a difference for you. It gives you the opportunity to work hard and work fast and let go of that perfection, like you said, Lewis. So thanks for bringing that up. That's a really great point.
Yeah, and it can be really, really frustrating. I've done a lot of game jams with fellow Unreal Engine 4 people, and I noticed just that I don't handle stress that well. So it's a really good way to basically train how you handle the stress and train how you react to the stress. So you can only get out better if you realize all the things that happened in that short moment. You should almost write a diary, like I felt like this, I did this, and I'm not happy with it, just so that you can realize that, hey, even though I was angry, I was frustrated, I'm not happy with this project, I got it done, it's finished. Wow, what a great feeling.
Do you use a daily journal?
I did do that. I mean, now with the whole burnout situation, I'm not really that organized at the moment, but I did write in a journal and I did like daily meditation just to reflect on things. And it does really help. It helps you reflect on things and it also helps you focus on things you still need to do.
That's awesome. I know that you have been putting a lot of your particle work in the Unreal marketplace. When it comes to, I guess, monetization, creating freelance kind of projects, can you kind of share a little bit on that experience in case people are interested in maybe sharing their own work online and trying to get, income from it?
This might go back to the whole perfectionist thing. Don't be too perfect, else you'll work like 4 months on something that should have been done in 1 month. And the time to make that money back through the marketplace will take even longer. So that's one thing. Have fun, make things that you want to see yourself. And the whole process, it's fairly simple. You just need a decent beginning understanding of Unreal Engine 4, know how the content works, how the files work, and a little bit of optimization goes a long way, of course. But if you have fun creating the content that you are making and you can actually make some money out of it, then definitely go for it. It's a good way to just make a little bit of extra money that at the end of the month you might be able to put in your pocket and save up a little more. Cool. Did I answer the question?
Yeah. I'm just always wondering, like, when people create effects, do they create them specifically with the intent to go on the marketplace, or is it a byproduct of the effects that they create? Obviously you can't take effects that you create for professional projects in games and then reuse them and sell them on your own personal time. I get that.
That's true. I mean, I did sell the particles and all the content related to it for that year project, the 360 particles a year thing. And I did sell them partially because a lot of people were interested in them and I could use the additional money as well, of course. But it was interesting because more people tend to buy that package than any of the other packages that I made. Because one, it's just easy, quick usage, and two, there's a lot of content in there that is easily reusable. So other artists might be able to use some of the textures. I constantly see fellow VFX artists with my textures. I'm like, hey, I made that. Oh my God, why are you using it? That's so amazing. Thank you. Cool.
I'm curious, from a support or even like post-sale customer service side, with your effects that you had or have on the marketplace, Did you have a lot of people reach out to you?
Fairly little, actually. More than often, well, it's only a few times over the past few years, but more than often it's more like a limitation from Cascade more than problems with my package. So they want to extend the lifetime of an effect, and in Cascade you just have to set all the lifetimes differently then. And so I actually made some tutorials for some people explaining how to do that. Even though it's not like really related to my package, I feel like it might not be helpful. Generally for VFX itself, the amount of people asking questions is very, very low. At least for me it is. And it might differ if there's a lot of blueprints in there. I have a few packages with blueprints just for showcase examples, and I've had more people asking about those than the particles.
Okay. One of the things that you have a very big passion for is a love for photography. I was curious if you could maybe talk about some of the work that you have done, whether it be a hobbyist or professional stuff, and how that's helped your passion for visual effects.
I started using yeah, oh my God, I'm going again. How do you pronounce that word?
Photography?
Yeah, I can't pronounce that word. So I like making photos. I started making photos of environments because I was an environment artist. I needed new textures and reference photos and that kind of thing. But eventually you get this, I wasn't really good at the technical side of the whole camera stuff, but you get a feeling for light, for instance. And that's just, oh my God, my English is suddenly losing me. You get a feeling for light and composition.
Composition.
And yeah, and that really helped me with effects along with environment art of course, because you get a better feeling of how bright something needs to be to make it feel really good. And the same with composition. If you know that an effect is like for a waterfall, then from what angle will people look at that waterfall and how can you make that look as good as possible? So it hasn't really influenced my VFX work that much, but just having a general understanding of environments and lighting and composition really helps you understand better where your effect is going to be and from what angles it needs to look good at.
I hear often that 90% of good effects are the textures and the materials you use. So I imagine being able to create amazing textures and having some of that photography background of what makes a good texture for water ripples or, dirt or whatever kind of other effect that you have is going to be useful in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually used photos of my face for effects because just to do something very, it's a bit icky, but I'm allergic to all kinds of nuts. Not really that I get like throat or anything, but I get all these dimples and zits on my face. And for a special flash kind of effect texture that I needed, I just made a photo of my face and used that as the base for all kinds of weird poppy, ugly thingies. So you never know where you get the inspiration and what works.
That's gross, but
Yes.
I see what you're saying there. No, recently I created some impact effects for blood, and somebody had told me, "Hey, yeah, you need to add some other, emitters on top of this to create a segment." And I went on to Google and I typed in, flesh, and what ended up popping up was like pieces of like steak and like rare meat. And I said, "Oh, you know what? It's not human flesh, but it'll work." So
yeah. That reminds me, I don't know if this client ever finished the game, but he wanted a very icky game with feces projectiles and that kind of thing. So I needed to make a feces texture. I'm not going to photograph that kind of thing. So I just took some chocolate pudding. I put some other chocolate stuff into it. I mixed it up and made a photo of that, and it worked perfectly. People were disgusted by it, but I just knew it was like a chocolate pudding. So if it works, it works.
yeah, I definitely agree that there are creative alternatives which may surprise people when they look under the hood of like how textures created these really cool effects.
Yeah, like the KFC chicken and the explosion. That image that is going over the internet. It worked. Just an image of that chicken works so well for an explosion. It's amazing.
You keep saying that you worked as an environmental artist at one time. I was curious, thinking about how that has helped you transition into visual effects and why you made that swap in the first place. Can you talk a little on that for me?
It helped me being a better VFX artist because I already had a decent understanding of how to create meshes, how to create textures, and how to set up materials. So obviously that helps as a developer in general, but knowing how big a space is and knowing how the scene is being lit, understanding the light actors itself and that kind of thing. It just helps with overall knowledge of whatever you're working on. It's don't have to, basically with anything you learn, you don't have to go back and how does this work, or work around the problem because you don't know what you're working with. So just general knowledge of the engine and editors in general helps being a better artist because you're less limited. And
Cool,
I
man.
say that even though I still don't know Niagara and I've never tested like the full metric fog stuff that Ryan always shows, and I still have so much to dig in. Oh my God.
I know one of the big games that you had worked on in the past was Reticle Rogers. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? Maybe some of the big challenges that you faced putting it together, and maybe one of your biggest accomplishments, one of those big effects that anytime somebody plays this game, you'd be like, I did that effect.
Well, like I said, it started with me doing the particle a day thing.
And
And
can you actually just describe to me and us what that game is, what the premise of the
okay.
story is?
Radical Rogers is basically a new take on, oh my God, Commander Keen kind of games, like back in the year older days. So just a side scroller that's kind of like a maze, and you have to collect like 4 things before you can progress to the next level. That's basically the gist of the game. And there's a lot of projectiles, a lot of enemies, a lot of puzzles, and basically like a very naughty version of Super Mario with a gun. I think that might work because there's a lot of verbal filth in that game. It's not for kids, let's just say it like that. And yeah, they contacted me, and a lot of the team is actually working as freelancer or at least from home. So that was a good experience for me to work with other people that work from home. And on the other hand, it can be sometimes frustrating because you never see face to face. And as we all know, words can have different meanings. People react differently to whatever you write instead of what you say. And so overall, it's been a very good experience. They let me do my stuff without that much input. So if they were like, can you make a bubble pop effect? And I made a bubble pop effect, and I might get like a few comments like, could you improve that effect, or that small shiny effect on there is just not good enough. Then that was basically it. There was never like whole reiterations on effects. So that was a lot of freedom, and I really appreciate when I have a lot of freedom so I can just do whatever I want without constantly getting criticized.
So we're in the COVID timeframe where everybody is being forced to work in remote environments. But for you, it sounds like that was a pioneering effort. You were doing it way before 2020 and kind of learning the challenges and ropes of learning with this kind of like digital communication and collaboration environment, right?
Yeah, you could say that. It was kind of funny to see on Twitter people panicking about, oh my God, I need to work from home. And for me, basically, even with the whole COVID thing, I'm at my desk and everything is fine, even though everything around me feels like it's burning. There's chaos outside, there's chaos on television. And as long as I'm like in my little safe zone on the computer, it kind of doesn't even feel like it's there unless I go to social media. So it's almost like mental safe haven a little bit just to get away from all the COVID stress.
Would you agree that visual effects artists can successfully and very well thrive in remote working environments? Or is there like a definitive need to be in-house studio?
It's a little bit of both. I think if I was like the lead of a team, then I definitely want to be at an office so that I have like face-to-face contact with people. I can easily discuss things with people without like finding a proper time to get in a call, or hopefully they reply to the email kind of thing, you know. But besides that, if you can definitely thrive as a freelancer. We VFX artists, if you do a little bit of networking, are probably never really without work. So there's always something that you can pick, and generally you have multiple things you can pick from. So you can always choose the developer team that's best suited to your needs, or the game that you really like working on. So there's a lot of freedom, and the only thing you need to is like, you have to work. You can't like only sit behind the TV or can go outside whenever you feel like it. You need to work. So there's a little bit of like personal, how do you call it? Motivate. You need to be
Accountability. I
yeah,
think
accountability,
is a
and
big part.
yeah, that's a good word. And you just have to be motivated for yourself, and you need to be a little bit of a loner, I guess. That might help as well. But I think you can thrive, though. If you are somebody who like really wants to be at an office or need people around them to work better, then it might not be suited for you.
You're a huge advocate for the Unreal community. I was curious, what drew you to be so passionate, and why do you stay instead of going elsewhere? And when I say elsewhere, I mean to say another engine.
Well, like I said, I started out a long time ago, back in the first Unreal and Unreal Tournament era, and we all had to figure it out ourselves. So we were on the forums and IRC, just like, oh my god, I found this new trick, and we all tried it out, and we all shared our information. And I really enjoyed that aspect of being in a community, everybody helping each other out, and that's something that stuck with me. So when I got back to UDK, I kind of wanted to be part of the whole community again, and some people even from back in the day were still active in those communities. So I made new friends, I made a lot of old friends again. Yeah, it's just the sense of friendship, and helping people out and people helping you out, and sharing information, sharing fun stories, sharing memes about Unreal Engine. It's just, it feels like a very, especially the core community people are just very tight, and we all want to help each other, and that's just such a great feeling.
Are there any specific stories that stand out?
In what way?
You'd mentioned memes being an example, or, kind of big discussions on particular topics. I know those threads can go on for a while.
Oh my god, Blueprint versus C++. That just keeps on going. Every time somebody starts it, it's just like hours and hours on Discord, like people discussing, no, C++ is better, Blueprint is better.
And what side are you on that equation?
I'm basically with Alar on that. Just a profiler. Basically, if it works and it's good enough and you don't need to optimize anymore, then Blueprint is totally fine. If it's triggering your performance and you're milliseconds away from you, then you might want to convert to C++ or optimize Blueprint at least. So whatever works, works. And if you need to go into deeper, then you might want to convert. And so I'm fine with either, as long as it is optimized and it works.
For visual effects artists, do you feel like they should learn to code in order to do their jobs well? Or is that something they're better off just leaving to their programmers?
That depends on the VFX artist, I think, because some people are more technical VFX artist stuff and others are more artistic. I totally suck at math, so that's something that will always be a struggle for me. And the same with, I can't code, even if my life depended on it. I tried for years, I just have a knack for it. So you don't need to learn how to code, but if you have an understanding of it, it will definitely help. You can create very cool stuff in HLSL for effects. You can, that's basically, you can just create a little bit more outside of the basic spectrum that just somebody that's creative can do. And that might give you an edge over others. But then again, somebody who's more technical inclined might not be as creative as you. And in that case, like everything in the community, share your information, learn from each other. That might get you a lot further.
Who are some of your role models that inspire you right now, Luos? And they don't have to be visual effects, they can be anything.
I never really had any role models, to be honest, but I do look at like a lot of whatever the community makes. So if I see something that inspires me, either on technical side or the artistic side, that just their work can be like a piece of a role model or a model for me to learn from. But I never had somebody that I was like, oh my God, I want to be him, or that is the person that I need to look up to become a better person. I was never that kind of person. I don't have any role models, to be honest. People who are friendly, people who are eager to work, are creative. Just everybody has a little tidbit that you can gain from. So those little pieces are a little bit of role model from everybody.
You mentioned that you spend a lot of time networking to find work. I was wondering if maybe you had any tips on how to network, and maybe if you had a specific example where networking paid off.
Like I recently said on Twitter, networking is basically a side effect of making new friends. And as a tip, well, be active on social media. Even though you might hate Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, that kind of thing, it helps just answering questions and being active there, because people will slowly over time remember your name. And if they also know what you do, if somebody ever asks them like, hey, do you know special effects artist for our project? I might know someone, Luos, he does special effects. And that's also part of why I'm in the community, but it just helps getting known. And just go out there and make video tutorials, or even not even tutorials, just make videos of you creating effects and put them on YouTube or elsewhere, and people will see them and either remember you, find you helpful, or maybe a client looks at your work because they were just Googling like UE for VFX. And so it doesn't need to be hard. You just need to be very social, even though that might be hard for some, I guess. But yeah.
Is there a proper etiquette to approach somebody on social media if you wanted to connect with them?
Just don't be a dick. Yeah, just in my humble opinion, I always say be yourself, but always what was it? Oh my god, my English is leaving me again. Be the friend that you want yourself towards other people. So be kind, be friendly, be supportive, and that really helps. Yeah, don't be an ass.
I think one of the biggest like fears that people who go into networking worry about is that it's me, gimme, 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 gimme. Especially when I look at these mixers here, at least locally in Dallas, with the games and even in the film and animation studio, is game developers don't like going to meetups because they know that all these students will come in there and try and badger them to get them a job at their company, and that's a big turnoff for game developers. So they're always trying to figure out like, how do you approach somebody and just become friends with them, or to engage with them without coming off as needy, I guess is kind of the key word there. And when we think about social media, it's the same situation because we have brands like Epic, Blizzard, et cetera, et cetera. And, people like who I was just talking with, Matt Schwartz, yesterday. He's a VFX artist at Blizzard. And I'm sure, people may message him all the time and be like, hey, here's my work. Can you get me a job? And I'm sure that probably gets annoying after a while. So it's...
Yeah, patience is a virtue. I don't have that kind of situation, but I do have a lot of, especially beginning VFX artists that ask me for my thoughts on their effects. And it can be really hard, especially if they're just starting out. And basically the only thing you can really say is just have more fun, follow more tutorials, because it's too hard to go over every aspect of their effect when it's totally not there yet. There might be like one aspect that is really good and you definitely want to point that out then, of course. But if you give somebody a whole list with everything that's wrong about the effect, they might feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. So maybe pick out one thing that is good and pick out one thing that they might want to focus on and do it like that. Or just be honest. If you don't have time, just say to them, I'm very sorry, I'm really busy, I don't have the time. Why not post in like a forum or on Discord and ask other people about their opinions? Just be prepared that people might be mean. So take everything what they say with a little bit of salt and take it from there.
That's really good advice, Luos. When we do go in with criticism or feedback, which is very important for artists in any capacity, please do it from a place of compassion and empathy and construction. Don't try and tear them down, and don't overwhelm them with too much.
Definitely, yes.
I just want to make a quick correction. I said Matt Schwartz works at Blizzard. He actually works at Riot Games. So if listeners get onto me about that, making that correction now.
Well, you never know. The industry is very dynamic, so you never know. Maybe the moment this video is released, he's already there.
Hey, Luos, are you ready to get into the lightning round questions? Quick and easy,
Yes.
just like visual effects.
Okay, sure.
What is a perfect one-day getaway in the Netherlands and the surrounding area?
Do you know what a sand drift is?
Do tell.
It's basically like a forest, and the whole floor is basically covered with sand. It's like a forest within a big desert kind of thing. And it's just the most beautiful scenery you've ever seen, at least in the Netherlands. And just walking there on a sunny day, relaxing, looking at birds fly by and bunnies and whatever, it's just so relaxing and so re-energizing. That for me will be a perfect day to get and relax a bit more. And
so typically when I interact with sand, I'm barefoot. Is it, because it's near the water, is it normally hot or cool under the shade of the trees?
Under the shade of the trees, it's doable, but I wouldn't walk without shoes because generally the trees around there are pine trees. So if you want to have your feet full with pine needles, yeah, there's a lot. The shade is nice, yes.
That's good to know. Thank you. What video game or app are you using on your phone that is the most fun?
None. Sorry. I never use my phone anything else but for like talking to people and browsing the internet. So the internet browser.
Okay. Do you have a tablet or some kind of other device, maybe like Siri or Alexa, like an internet at home toy?
No, I
Okay.
not really. Actually, I love watching movies on the television. I use my big ass computer, but besides that, I don't care much for technology. Actually, I mean, maybe this thing, the noise canceling headset, because I'm working from home. There's a newborn child next to me. New people are going to move in a few days in the home now that they're going to drill the walls and whatever. So, noise canceling headset that just gets me excited.
What is your favorite thing to cook or eat?
Whew. I have Greek food. That's like my all-time favorite. I have some relatives that were Greek, and I always enjoyed the Greek food. So now I know how to make it myself. I love to eat it almost daily. Besides that, Mexican food and anything from the barbecue, especially if it's like big chunks of meat.
What is your favorite book or podcast you've listened to recently?
Well, this podcast is definitely going to be on my list because I never really listen to podcasts, but this one I'm definitely going to listen more to because, like I said, I listened to the Bill Gladys one, and I really enjoy that. So I'm definitely going to listen to all of them. And favorite books, I can't really give you any. I don't read that much, to be honest.
Okay. I will throw one out there and just tell me if you've read it or not. Elemental Magic.
I have it somewhere here. Yes. Yeah, true. If you're a VFX artist, then those books are very invaluable. They learn you a lot. Even there's just some pages with just some small scribbles of sparkles. And even those, I still remember them clearly. So, like, oh my God, sparkles, even though it's like the most basic thing in that whole book. But they are very well written. The drawings are amazing. So, yeah, if you're a VFX artist, definitely check those out. They aren't that expensive, so they're well worth the money.
Best advice for a first time visual effects artist or people looking to get into the industry.
Have a lot of fun. That's probably the most important thing. Just have fun. If you're from day one always frustrated and never feel like doing the work that you do, then this is not for you. But if you can keep having fun and find fun in learning new things, then you can get far. So that's the biggest advice I can give you. Just enjoy yourself and don't get too perfectionist. Don't want everything to be perfect. It doesn't have to be optimized in the beginning. If you want to use weird texture shapes, weird texture files, weird million polygon meshes, just do it. Have fun.
What are you most excited about for the future of real time visual effects?
Everything is becoming more real time. So just like the Jenga effect stuff, the real time smoke simulations, I want to see those working in engine, as in the whole simulation itself, not the rendered flipbooks. Water sims in general, just having those in real time, that's going to be very exciting. And I really wonder how Unreal Engine 5 will change and if it will change how we currently handle VFX. So that's what I'm really excited about.
What question do you never get asked that you wish you were asked more often?
Mainly with clients. Lewis, what do you think of our game? I would love to get that question sometimes because sometimes I really need to bite my fingers, bite my teeth just to like, why are you spending time and money on this? But it might be a little bit mean to say this out loud, but sadly, there are some clients that spend money when they don't really know what they want yet.
Okay. Any final thoughts or things to plug? Anything you want to promote, get out there and have some people check out?
Well, it's not done yet. I'm working on a material function pack for the marketplace, Unreal Engine 4 marketplace. And it will contain all the material functions that I made. So it's almost 80 material functions. And I have like a demo video on my YouTube channel. But if you're a VFX artist, then you're worth your money. There's so much interesting and cool stuff in there, from very simple things that will just make your workflow a little bit faster to plop it down, hook up a few wires, and you'll have an amazing effect already. So that's going to be something that I'm working hard on. And hopefully, if Epic wants to put it on their permanently free package, I will also add all the textures that I made ever in that package. So that's something that I kind of want to plug.
Is there a place where people can connect with you or reach out and network in the future in case they have more questions?
I'm active on Twitter mainly and on a little bit on Facebook, don't as much anymore, and on the Unreal Slackers Discord and the Real-Time VFX forums and Discord channel. So that, and they can also always find my email address anywhere, and luosarts.com also works, though it's a bit outdated already, but the email works. So they can contact me and ask me anything.
And I know Lewis has created this amazing resource on Twitter called Twitter List, where tons of VFX artists have shared their own aliases, and you can just literally follow hundreds of other people as part of the community through his Twitter list. So definitely check that out as well, guys.
Yeah, there's amazing people in there. From students who just got started to the high-end techie VFX people. So there's a whole list, and it's just so much fun to see those people now interact, even though a short time ago, nobody really knew that there was a big VFX community. So seeing them all gather together and becoming better friends and sharing more tips and tricks is just such a great feeling, such amazing thing to see.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure to chat.
Yeah, it was really fun. We should do this more often, I kind of want to say. But
yeah, for sure, man. I'm definitely looking to get a roundtable together to just talk more on the tech side with optimization. And I think you got a lot you could talk about there.
That, and I would love to be with more VFX people just talking and sharing their things that they discover or their daily habits and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. The more people come together, the better the community, better we become.
All right, Luos, you have a great day.
You too, man. Take care.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to this interview with Luos. I had a lot of fun catching up with him, and I hope he had something to share with y'all that y'all enjoyed as well. Our key takeaways: number one, have fun creating effects. If you're not having fun creating the effects that you want, then find the ones that hit home closest to what brings you the most enjoyment. If you don't, you're going to get burnt out and you're going to stop making effects. Number two, go ahead and be consistent with creating your effects. Take the speed create challenge that Luos pioneered. Try and create one VFX every single day, maybe one every week, and don't worry so much about perfection. Perfection is the enemy of progress. And right now, as an aspiring visual effects artist, you just want to focus on getting out effect after effect so that you can really start getting in the motion in the process of building out your effects. Number three, make sure that you're networking whenever possible. Use social media to connect with all the other visual effects artists out in the community and to pick their brain, ask them questions, get to know what makes them click. If you got a question about a particular effect, go find that person. I know Breath of the Wild has all these amazing pieces that people are trying to pick and pull apart right now. Even the Valorant game with the Sage Wall and the Phoenix Wall, people are collaborating and networking and really kind of pulling all their resources together. So now is the time to network and build meaningful relationships with people. All right, everybody, that concludes today's episode. Our next one is going to be focusing on some of the new developments that Unreal is unleashing for visual effects artists. I really want to touch base on some of those, whether it be a little bit on the theoretical or speculative side, and see if we can pull in some artists to kind of share some thoughts on what the future of visual effects will hold. Until next time, rock on.